obviously we can't cover everything or even come close to covering everything, but Sheri, I want to approach this section by talking to people who are saying, you know what, I've not been a gardener in the past to speak of. I've done some landscaping or whatever else, but let's talk to people who are starting to think, I have extra time. Maybe I'm retiring, or my job, I'm only working part-time, or the kids have moved away from home, whatever. Let's talk to the beginning gardener, the essential steps. What path can you put them on to get them off to a good start? What kind of things do they need to know here in the early stages?
They need to get their soil together. Good soil is absolutely essential. And I suggest using compost. If you can't get compost for some reason, the place on Garthwaite Road, and I'm not thinking of the name of it. Anyway, it's the big place where they sell all the soil.
Oh gosh.
Irving Brothers?
Irving Materials.
Yes.
Irving Brothers Materials.
They have a sandy garden soil blend. And it is absolutely fantastic if
good.
that's, if you're going to buy something. That is what I would suggest. So start with your soil. If you don't have a way to rototill, don't worry about it. Put some concrete block, some landscape timbers, anything down to build a raised bed. Put a good ½ inch of newspaper under that raised bed, including outside of the edges. It will go away and you won't see it after a while. That's going to keep your weeds down, and put your soil on top.
Okay.
Start with a good base. That is absolutely essential. Don't believe that you have to buy all the chemicals and sprays, because it's just not necessary. Organic gardening is the way to go. You will invite the good pests into your garden. They will take care of the bad bugs.
All right.
And your produce will be ready to eat. You can just go out in your garden, pick it, and eat it. I mean, you should wash it, but if you're out there, you can taste it.
Not going to catch some bad disease by doing that. All right, now let's break it down a little bit further. Okay, let's say somebody is just interested in growing flowers and plants, but not produce necessarily. Even though we're talking about year-round here, do you have recommendations of types of flowers that are particularly beautiful? Maybe care isn't something you have to worry about 24/7, something like that?
I do. Get some hellebores. They're a shade plant. They will bloom in November, December, January, February. They may take a few years to do that, to get established in your garden, but get those. Get some witch hazel trees. Those will bloom December, January, February, maybe March. They are beautiful. Little tiny flowers, but once the tree gets big enough, you're going to have clusters of beautiful yellow and orange and red flowers, depending on the variety you choose. And crocus.
Okay.
You gotta love crocus.
All right.
So, and if they want to start right now, if they've never gardened before and they want to get some flowers in this month, sunflowers, salvia, celosia, sweet William. These are all plants that they can start right now, and if they put them in a cold frame, now of course sunflowers, it would have to be a good size cold frame. Yeah. They will have blooms in the late fall.
Oh, very good. All right, now, the area of produce. Let's talk about some things that they could put in, say, now, and things that, for beginning gardeners, would be good starters for them.
Okay, starting this week, you can put broccoli, kale, lettuce, spinach, and carrots in the ground. And next week, you can put more basil, broccoli, cauliflower, collards, lettuce, kale, peas, and spinach in the ground.
All right.
And you will get a fall harvest, and if you put a cold frame over this stuff, it's going to last most of the winter. And kale and Brussels sprouts don't even need a cold frame. They are better after the frost has hit them. It sweetens them, and they should last in the garden until December sometime.
All right. We're talking with Sheri Ann Richerson. We're talking about some, tips, obviously, you're hearing about, but the book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Year-Round Gardening, is one that she has co-authored and is now out and available to you. We'll continue talking with her in Sheri Ann Richerson, local author, is joining us today and has a book that's been out since February called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Year-Round Gardening. Sheri, we've been talking about people who are of the beginning variety gardeners, and let's talk about the people who are veterans at it, do a pretty nice job, had a pretty extensive garden, flowers, plants, whatever the case may be. I wonder if there are additional tips that you could give them to say, you know what, you may not have thought of this. This could enhance your crop even more. This could make your flowers even better than they are now. Are there some tips?
There is. Because of our short growing season, a lot of people think you can only garden in the summertime. And that's not true. We can garden 4 seasons here. And there are tips about how to heat your soil up, how to keep it heated. You could take these tips not only for produce, but say you want to grow bananas or palm trees here in Indiana outside. You could do this, and I have done this. Everything in this book I have done here in Indiana. So there are many, many, many tips in here that would help not only the beginning gardener, but the very advanced gardener.
Okay.
And we have greenhouse tips in here. So even people with hobby greenhouses can benefit from learning something on how to get more out of their greenhouse.
All right. Saving money when it comes to food. How is this book going to help people do that?
If they follow the tips in this book and they learn to garden year-round, they're not going to pay the high prices at the grocery store for, say, lettuce in the wintertime, because they're going to walk in their backyard and they're going to have it. If they use the square foot planting method, which is mentioned in the book, they're going to get more produce out of their garden and possibly be able to can or freeze or even dehydrate some of that produce and save money. We're lucky to spend $20 a week at the grocery store, and that's for meat. And that's only because we don't raise all of our own meat. We put up all of our own food every year, and even when I lived in a trailer court on a city lot, I was able to put up a substantial amount of food.
That's amazing.
Yes.
The canning that you've talked about, are there some tips about canning also in this book?
There is not, but if people go to my website, experimentalhomesteader.com, there are all kinds of tips about canning. There's pictures, there's things that I'm doing, and there's contact information for me. People can find me on Facebook and Twitter, too, if they'd like to contact me direct. And I can give them, whatever tips they want.
Outstanding. All right, this is Sheri Ann Richerson. Let's talk now about where they can get the book, how much the investment would be, and why it's very worthwhile for them to do so.
Okay, I have copies of the book that I can sign for people for $20 a piece if people want to contact me. They can go to Amazon.com. They can go to any major bookstore and have it ordered. And I believe I've seen it on eBay too, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, and depending on if they get a new or used copy is going to determine the price, but $20 and down.
Outstanding.
So,
other books that people might look for that you have authored that you might mention?
I did a bunch of Llewellyn books that I'm not going to mention the titles because they probably can't get those because they were like almanacs.
Oh, I see.
Perspective Visions, Enigmatic Masterpieces was a collection of poems I wrote from the time I was 10 on. 101 English Garden Tips, and that is available on Amazon. Magical Gardens is available on Amazon. It's an Amazon short. It's 49 cents. So you can't beat that. And I have upcoming, I have 101 Secret Garden Tips, which is not secret garden tips. It's things you can do with the plants in your gardens, like make dyes, spin, weave, things people don't think of. I have 101 tips for self-sufficiency from your garden, which can tell you how to survive off of your piece of land, even if it's a city lot. I have 101 organic gardening tips coming up, and I have 101 beginning gardening tips coming up.
My.
So,
You're probably still not sleeping. You probably haven't slept since this book. Yeah, well, anyway, this is amazing. All right. Sheri Ann Richerson again. And do you want to, or some people don't like their phone numbers on the air, but do you mind if people want to call and contact you?
That's fine. My number is 765-664-6916. And just leave a message if I'm not there.
All right. It's been good to have you in.
Well, thank you so much for having me in.
Thank you for a copy of the book.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'll keep my hands on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sheri Ann Richerson, joining us on today's Good Morning Grant.